Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mama. I'm Marie Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry, coming to you from safe distancing, two separate studios at the edge of the Great Red Divide. You can find us on Demcast and at Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com for all of our previous work. Please like, follow, share, and subscribe to share the message of progressive Democrats across the nation. Marie, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, there's been a lot going on in the world between foreign wars and China and India are now on the verge of war, and we have a pandemic globally. We have a depression that's soon to happen globally if it hasn't
Yeah,
already hit multiple countries.
it has.
But we're facing right now a challenging of what it means to be a citizen of America and what that means to each and every one of us. And we
Right.
talk about how it should be equal and it's not, which Heidi, you and I started talking about symbols.
Yeah.
And we were, and it was so cute because in our pre-show you showed me your vest.
Oh yeah, here I'll turn the
And
camera down
yeah,
and so people can see it. It's my rainbow vest, and I bought this when I was teaching Sunday school. It's like a for those of you that can't see it that are listening on the air instead of visually. It's a like a gauzy vest that's white and it's got a rainbow pattern in, not the gay pride pattern, but just a regular rainbow pattern. And I bought it when I was teaching Sunday school because we were going to do Noah's Ark. And this was just a couple of years ago. And I wore it and we talked about, God sent a rainbow. And I know that they've used this symbol lately to say there will be an end of the pandemic. And they use rainbows to symbolize that. So it is a symbol. Now, I told you the story about my one neighbor. We were over at their house for a barbecue, and I wore it because it's super cute, I think. And she said to me, "I thought you and Stan had been married a long time." And I said, "Yeah, I don't remember then. It was in the 20s. We're in the 30s now." But I said, "Yeah, we've been married." And she goes, "Well, but that vest, are you?" I'm gonna air quote this, turning gay. And I said, "I beg your pardon." And she goes, "Well, you've got
Oh,
a
okay, Heidi, stop
yeah.
for 1 second.
Am I
So
am
a
I turning
woman
gay?"
who's your neighbor
Who'd known me for 15
sees you
years.
wearing a gauzy rainbow colored pattern
To a
vest
barbecue.
and says, "Are you gay?
Am I turning gay?
Are you turning gay?" That's just mind blowing to me. Okay, continue. It's
Okay.
absolutely stunning.
She was the homeowner of the event, and they don't live here anymore. But I was appalled. Number one, you either are gay or you're not gay. You don't turn gay, right? Uh, and it was very offensive to me because I think of Murray. We've talked about this. There was LGBTQ people in my life, all of my life, and we didn't talk about LGBTQ. They were just uncle so and so, aunt so and so, neighbor so and so. We didn't talk about their sexual orientation. It didn't matter. And I was an adult before I realized that people had a problem with it. Because in my family it wasn't an issue. It just was, that's aunt so and so and her friend so and so, and they live together in this house, and oh, don't they have a beautiful garden? I mean, that was, and she works for the Aurora and Elgin, which was the train that went through. So she was a ticket taker. I mean, those are the things I remember about her. I don't ever think of her in the bedroom. Like it just was so. I remember her peonies were gorgeous, right? So to me, it just is so absurd to take a symbol like this vest that I used to teach about Noah's Ark and think it's turning me gay.
And you're absolutely right. That brings me to when I had our boys in private school.
Hmm.
We had them in Catholic school. God forbid, I'm so sorry, and they deserve years of counseling and therapy from that. But the church that I attended was an Irish named church with a strong Irish heritage,
Right.
St. Patrick's. And we were on the verge of closing because the priest really didn't want the school, and the diocese was closing schools. It seemed, and we were doing a fundraiser. It was our hope. And of course, we're St. Patrick. It was St. Patrick's Day.
Right.
We had been doing a push to raise money to keep us. So we made a giant cauldron that
Yeah.
we were able to color in as we reached certain amounts, certain levels. So during drive through and pickup. And the original design was a cloud, a rainbow, and a pot of gold.
Right.
And our priest, Father Pete, made us remove the rainbow,
Oh.
had a fit, sent out emails and letters to all the congregation because the rainbow represents
Oh.
homosexuality, and that is not approved of in the Catholic Church.
Oh my God, Marie.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so now I
So the symbol of a rainbow
now
is
did you
I'm not a churchy girl,
yeah, I
okay,
know.
but you
I
are.
am.
So the symbol of the rainbow comes from the Bible. It comes
Right.
from creation, correct?
Right. Well,
After the big flood, the skies
Noah's
cleared
Ark,
and the rainbow
God
came
sent a
out,
rainbow,
right?
yeah, to signal that everything
Okay.
was going to be fine.
So it seems like the driving premise for both should be the rainbow means that everything is going to be good.
I
Yet in your
think so.
neighbor's case and in the priest's case, both are absolutely the opposite of that just because of what the rainbow symbol
Yeah.
has become.
Now, I should tell you too that probably now my son is in his 30s. So it had to be 30 years ago, maybe 30 because that's how long I've known these people. Um, Across the street from me was a house that had started to be built and it was left unfinished for years. And it was rather an eyesore. And my son told me one time, he goes, Mom, I want to buy that house and I want to have children come and stay there with me, children that don't have homes. He said, I want to paint it rainbow colored so that all the children of all of the world can come and live in Rainbow House and be loved. And he was little, not even 5. And he said this in the presence of the husband of this one neighbor. And he was like aghast. Why would you allow him? He goes, well, that would be hideous to look at anyway, because it's right by his house. And he said, why would you let him name anything Rainbow House? And I thought, oh, I'm a Sunday school teacher. We teach about rainbows all the time in God's creation, And I said to him, I don't know why that's offensive. He goes, well, that's gay pride. And I said, no. I said, that's God sent a rainbow. And my child wants to bring all the unloved children together and have them be loved in God's name. I said, I don't know why you would have a problem with that. So when his now ex-wife told me about, she was worried I was turning gay from this vest, I said, that is so short-sighted and narrow-minded. I said, I have been a Sunday school teacher for decades. I said, I have used rainbows. I said, it's one of the happier stories in that part of the Bible, in the Old Testament, right? That God sent a rainbow. Now, he sent it after he killed everybody on earth but Noah, his wife, and a few animals, right? But the rainbow part of the story is beautiful. And trying to explain to them that the symbolism is of joy and peace and love. I don't care if it's the gay pride color flag, which this is not. This is more just kind of abstract rainbow, or this vest. It doesn't mean anything that should be offensive to anyone. Why should it matter about gay pride? What if my son wanted to bring all the gay children and live in Rainbow House? I think that's a fabulous idea because the gay children need love too. All children need love. All people need love. And to me, when I see the great gay pride flag, I think it's an expression of love because it was started as an expression of desperation because of the oppression and the hatred that should never happen. Never happen. So you and I come to it with in the denomination I'm part of, the Episcopal denomination, fully embraces LGBTQ people. You're welcome because you are part of creation. There's no judgment. I mean, I just it's like we can't pick and choose the creation that we love, but the pick and choose evangelicals will do it for us. So, or in
But
your case,
Heidi, you
Catholic
just
priests.
made a really good point, and I want to kind of take what your point and transition for a
Sure,
second, if you don't mind.
sure.
So you made this point about the rainbow being all of creation and the use of the rainbow in pride to talk about love and new beginnings and everything is going to be okay and encompassing, right? The rainbow, and so there isn't any derogatory or negative hate associated with the rainbow in its purest form.
Right.
It is a symbol that then the right and those that didn't believe in it, like Father Pete, like your neighbor, have turned into a hatred symbol. And
Right.
while it may trigger them, it doesn't symbolize hate. It symbolizes love and acceptance, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So now
If you
let's look at what's. Oh, go ahead.
no, if you can't love and accept every human being for being how they were created, whether you believe in God or not, for being how they were born, if you can't love and accept that for who they are, I feel really sorry for you because you miss out on a significant portion of the population that doesn't look, act, think, do what you do. And the
Now,
flavors.
how do we take that? This is okay. So this is kind
Mhm.
of where a lot of the arguments and concerns that we are facing come
Yeah,
into play.
absolutely.
So you have a symbol like the rainbow. You have a symbol what it stands for.
Hmm.
It stands originally for new beginnings, purity, hope, light,
Love.
and then you have symbols that are statues, the flags, the things that people tend to
Yeah.
worship and encourage
Oh,
that give them a
Murray.
sense of identity.
Murray. Are we talking about the
So now,
Confederate battle flag? Can we talk about that for a minute? Can we talk about the
that's
damn
where I'm
Confederate?
going, girl.
Okay.
That's where I'm going. So before you go, I want to, I kind of want to start with this and say the symbols are different.
Hmm.
What the symbols, those statues, the Confederate flag represent is not goodness. It is not purity. It is not
No.
hope. Those
No.
symbols, those statues, those flags, those articles are symbols of
Of
hatred
hate,
and
bigotry,
and despise and
and
despair
racism,
and anger
and
and so
hatred.
when you see those statues, you're conjuring up those images and that means
Pardon my
something and
dog.
we need to look at what that means.
Well, you know, a lot of people right now, we're going through a phase in our history where we are removing statues that were put up during previous points in our history. Number one, there was no Confederate statues placed during the short time of the Confederacy. Not one. There is not one that was placed during the time of the Civil War. Not one. The South had, number one, had no materials to make that because it's not organic to that area, nor did they have the smelting plants to make it. They didn't have the money to spend on bronze statues. Those statues were put up during the Jim Crow era. And if you don't know what the Jim Crow era was, it was after the Civil War, we had Reconstruction, which only lasted 8 years. It only lasted 8 years. And it needed to last probably 25 to 30. You had to do a couple generations in order for it to work out because you had to kill off the old bigotry, racism, hatred, and rebuild a society that incorporates all of us. So what happened is for a political move in Washington, remember Lincoln was murdered. He was assassinated in office before Reconstruction was fully underway. The people that took over from him, the succession of presidents afterwards, including 8 years afterwards, decided that we didn't need to do any more Reconstruction. They pulled Union troops, American troops, out of the South. They allowed the South to self govern, which didn't work before, never worked before in the South. And once we took the troops out and allowed them to self govern, they decided that they would place these statues, not just in the South, but they came north too. They came into the form of our army bases around the country, Fort Bragg being one of them, named after Confederate generals that had shot, killed American soldiers. The whole point of the Confederacy was to break our nation apart, to preserve slavery. People will say, oh no, it was states' rights. No, it was not. It was to preserve the institution of slavery and to enslave black people, brown
And
people, and native people. So,
and Heidi, you know where most of those came from, right? Most of those began once we had yeah, it was an enforcement based on Jim Crow laws,
yes,
based on hostility and hatred.
sundown
They
towns.
weren't erected immediately. They were erected as blacks began to get more rights and privileges and realized they were human beings, which they should have been all along.
They were all
But those
along.
white, powerful
Forces
men,
that were scared.
yeah,
They were
and
scared.
so they put up
Yeah.
those symbols. They erected these monuments, these statues,
Yeah.
and they had nothing to do with the Confederacy other than the reinforcement of hatred and fear for those who dare to raise their heads above the place they supposedly belong.
100%, Marie. 100%. Those were not in honor of splitting our country apart. They were not in honor of the Confederacy. They should never have been allowed. In Germany, you would never see a statue to Hitler, ever. You would never see a swastika. And in fact, in Germany, because you cannot buy a swastika flag, you know what they fly? Our racist stars and bars Confederate battle flag. That's not the flag that we see with the stars and bars, like on the General Lee from what's that stupid TV
It's a
show?
hazard.
Yes, Duke of my mother would not let me watch that show because of the Confederate symbol. She said that that was so backwards she couldn't stand it and would not be. You would the list of things my mother and I never saw so many different shows, but that was like, oh, she hated. She used to write the network all the time about that damn car, and it would never be allowed. Somebody gave one to my brother for his Hot Wheels set, and she threw it out. I think she might have smashed it with a hammer first, but my mother's symbolism, wham, into the trash. That deserves to die. But you know, she said all they are doing is promoting this racist stereotype, this allegiance to something that we should never have allegiance to. So anyway, so she would go on such a great rant right now. But it's really important to understand that when we talk about the Confederate battle flag, which is different than the Confederate flag, which looks a lot like the Betsy Ross flag, except it only has three stripes, but it's got the stars around, is that flag is now flown in Germany in place of the swastika because they can't have it. My daughter posted a picture of it the other day because she was so alarmed that somebody thought it was, for the 13 colonies, and it was the tears of the innocent, and it was, the battlefield of blue. And I said to her, honey, that flag is not fit to wipe your ass with. I wouldn't even use it. It's not fit to touch my butt, that's for sure. It's not worthy. It's not worthy. It should be banned. I know NASCAR banned it, and the only guy that left NASCAR.
Who the hell would have ever thought that the Democrat or that not Democrats, people with a conscience would get NASCAR? Like NASCAR, the Confederate flag has been such a symbol on cars and NASCAR rallies. Now, that's not saying that everyone is racist, but it has carried a connotation with it. When I think of NASCAR, I can't help it. I think, hillbilly redneck Bubba.
Harry Bubba's.
Harry Bubba's. And that may not be the case at all, but I can't help but feel when I see that flag, when I see NASCAR, and now NASCAR banned it, I'm like, am I going to start liking NASCAR now? Is this a real sport now? I don't know. It's
I don't know. Wait, I'm getting some feedback here. Let me push this away. I think that what I see, did you hear that feedback? Hang on. Okay, let's try this. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So when I think of NASCAR, I think of, a bunch of guys going around in a circle, turning left, burning gasoline, and polluting the air. So I've never been a big race fan. But the only guy that left NASCAR, and I can't think of his name because I really don't know NASCAR, but he drives trucks. They drive these trucks, race trucks around, and he had never won a race in 31 starts. And but he was so upset that they were taking away his racist flag that he's leaving NASCAR. I'm thinking, what other job are you qualified for, really? I mean, for real. Who else is going to pay you for turning
They're
left,
taking away
left,
their
left for a couple hundred miles and driving your truck? Who? Nobody. Nobody's going to do that.
And you just said it. They're taking away the racist flag. They're taking, which is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It is not a symbol that was based on anything historical.
Nope.
It's a symbol created to divide and cause hate and fear among those that want to feel superior.
Right.
Which is so very different from the rainbow. The rainbow is a symbol of hope and love and acceptance and brighter days.
Right.
So people try to conflate the two, and it boggles my mind that we don't understand what it really means.
Marie, we don't have not erected a statue to Jeffrey Dahmer, who killed and ate people, right? Why do we have statues to Robert E. Lee, who killed more people? Why? He didn't eat them. Is that why we have statues of him? Because to me, it's just as egregious.
He didn't even win, right?
Huh?
He wasn't even a winner. Right?
No, he was a loser. He was a big, fat loser. He wasn't even nice to his horse, history shows. So, well, and to me that means a lot. If you can't be nice to your horse, And
I know.
Guess who ate most of their horses in the war between the states? The Southerners. Why? Because they were losers and they were starving, so they killed their cavalry horses and ate them all the time. That's history, honey, and people don't talk about the real history of, most soldiers died of disease and dysentery and septic shock and starvation. They don't talk about that. A lot of their battlefield animals, horses and dogs, mostly horses, died of starvation, overworked, worked to death, because they couldn't afford to do the war, keep the war, start the war that they started, right? They couldn't afford it because their entire economy was built on the backs of black people and enslaved indigenous people. And when that collapsed, they had no smelting plants, no ability to make those statues. And yet Jim Crow era, and for our listeners that don't know what Jim Crow era laws were, you need to open a history book. Just Google, for God's sake, because then you'd be, tearing them down too. So, banned from my household. I'll tell you another story about my childhood. I was invited to be in a drill team on horseback, and our saddle pads were the stars and bars, and my mother would let me in. It wasn't my choice. It was the lady that ran it. She thought it was rebellious, and my mother's like, nope.
And Heidi, you just made a really good point.
Yeah.
Back then, the woman thought it was rebellious. She probably, I swear there are people that maybe, okay.
They don't know that.
Maybe this is just the only way that I can keep a hope on humanity, that I can keep myself sane.
Yeah.
But I really have to believe that many people don't have the education and don't understand what these things mean. Not just what they mean, but the impact that they have. And it brings me to listening to a representative talk about how she has to walk by Confederate statues in the house on her way to the floor.
I know.
And how that makes her feel. And how every black person who sees those statues day in and day out, how that has to make them feel.
Oh.
And you know what? There's something to be said for symbols. Some symbols, it's time to go. It's time to really educate people and let them know it's not just what it stands for, which is a huge issue, but it's the impact that what it stands for has on the rest of us. Well, maybe if we put it in those terms, it might help some folks understand why it's important to know our history.
It's like ongoing victimization of people of color. It's ongoing, you're still victimizing them. You're still reminding them their role in society.
Like the initial intent of those is to keep them in place, to keep black people down, keep slaves down, to not allow them to realize who is always over them, who is always supreme to them. And that is exactly what it still means. And that is why they don't want to take those, because it's a reinforcement that I'm better than you.
That's
And
exactly
that's all
right.
it feels good.
Did you read that Matt Gaetz comment on Twitter
I,
about how
I
Nancy Pelosi wants to take down all the Democrat statues? You know, Matt Gaetz would take down a statue of Abe Lincoln right now because he disagrees with them.
uh,
You
you
know,
know, uh, Matt Gaetz. I'm blocked by Matt Gaetz
are
and
you?
Jim Jordan.
I'm surprised that
Yeah, they're
I'm always surprised that I'm not, and then I'm surprised at some of the people that have blocked me because I don't remember what I said to them. But um, and Susan Collins, I can't believe that she hasn't blocked me. I know that local state representative from the 75th district blocked me so many years ago when he was my representative. He can't take the fire. He can't take the heat.
yeah. There's a
My
lot like
state
that.
senator that I ran against, if I comment on her Facebook page, my comments seem to disappear quickly.
You're an instigator, Heidi, as am I,
No, I'm a
as is
truth
the
teller.
Heartland
I'm
Mamas.
a truth
And
teller,
so
and
we
that's
hope
yeah. That
that we could give you some truth today about symbols,
symbols and
and
statues.
not just what they stand for, but the implications of those symbols, what they mean. So when you see a rainbow, to LGBTQ community, it means hope, it means acceptance, it
Yes.
means love to most people. When a Black person sees a Confederate flag or a statue, it means hate, domination, and fear. And that's the difference.
Right. And you know, for people like us, you and I, Murray, we see those statues and those flags of hate, and we feel it for as allies. We feel it too. We feel the oppression. And you know, when I read we can't feel it like a black person does, like a brown person does, like an indigenous person does, but you can feel hatred, you know, and some people like you to feel that hatred. They want you to feel that hatred. They want you to feel that fear. I have a neighbor up, I can't think of the name of it, up the street from me that flies a snake flag. And where that was a symbol, a patriotic symbol at one point, it became co opted by the Tea Party. And we talked a little bit about the thin blue line flag on a previous episode, how that has been co opted as a anti Black Lives Matter flag. So when you go to fly your flags, and if you were in the studio with me, everybody, you would see a pile of flags to my right, which is the flags that we fly at demonstrations. You know, when we are at peaceful demonstrations with a group of people, these belong to the indivisible groups that I'm part of. So I am the flag keeper. So there are American flags, Democratic flags, there are peace signs, there's Black Lives Matter flags, there's all kinds. There's a transgender flag in here, there's a gay pride flag in here, because the Democratic Party is all inclusive. We may not all agree because we are so inclusive, but it is the umbrella for all of us that love peace and forward thinking. Um, and I'm tired of having these symbols co opted by people who hate, you know? And I would like to see, to me, you're never going to see a Confederate flag or a battle flag in my pile of flags over here because it's contrary to everything I believe in. And I don't know. People need to think about what they do, how they harm other
And
people.
think about the implication of it. Think about how it makes other people feel. I think
Right.
we've gotten so far away from that.
What are you
And
fighting for? Why are you fighting for that symbol? My daughter
yeah,
asked me the other day. She said, "What if somebody came in with Confederate gear for their horse?" And I said, "Well, they couldn't keep it in my barn, and they couldn't show
mhm.
they couldn't show on our show team with it. I would absolutely forbid it. That's crossing the line." So I just think that there's a lot of things you can do, a lot of symbols you can have, and that would be no bueno. Would never happen.
Well, folks, we are out of time for
Yep.
today, but I have so enjoyed our conversation on symbols and where symbols come from, what they mean, and how they impact those people around them. So, we hope we gave you some history, and please share, like, subscribe. We depend on you to help us spread the word.
Yep.
So, Heartland Mamas.
mamas.com. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.